Hey everyone. So, fluids. They're incredibly useful when they're where they're supposed to be in a system, but they're somewhat less fun when they escape and go rogue where they're not supposed to be. And if you're an end user, the amount of headache that you get from a leak is going to be directly proportional to how destructive those rogue fluids end up being. And if we want to avoid a full-on fetal position migraine headache, then monitoring our system fluids is going to be critical to rapidly detecting when things have gone awry. And that allows us to immediately take action to mitigate the consequences of our leak. And in today's video, we're going to unbox and run up an eval kit for a product which helps designers add this functionality with almost Lego brick simplicity, and that's the Microchip MTCH9010. But before we get into the box, let's get into what the MTCH9010 actually is, so that when we get into the eval kit, it makes some sense. In a nutshell, the MTCH9010 is a tiny but potent liquid detection IC. And when I say tiny, it really is tiny. It's a 3mm by 3mm 20-pin VQFN package that supports either capacitive or conductive fluid sensing modes and can easily be set up, even without a microcontroller, simply by supplying a set of analog voltage levels to the appropriate input pins. So, looking at the device pinout, we have a capacitive sensor input here on pin 7 and two conductive sensor inputs on pins 19 and 20. The digital output pin is a binary indicator that goes high if the value measured on the sensor is above a set detection threshold. And to set up detection, we have some setup pins. First is the operation mode pin, which is set to either 0 volts for conductive mode or supply voltage for capacitive mode sensing. The device has a power-saving sleep mode that can be set to one of 9 preset sleep periods by the voltage on the sleep period pin. But if you set this pin to 0 volts, the device goes into a wake-up on request mode, where it stays asleep until it detects a falling edge on the wake-up pin. The awakened device will check for liquid on the sensor pins and then go back to sleep, waiting for the next wake-up signal. The next pin configures the liquid detection threshold. In practical terms, this allows you to compensate for variances in your sensor design or size, the properties of the liquid that you're trying to detect, and environmental variables like temperature and humidity. There's a slightly different formula for capacitive sensors and conductive sensors, but what it boils down to is that for the capacitive sensors, the highest sensitivity is at 0 volts, and the highest threshold is at 20% of the supply voltage. While for conductive sensors, 0 volts is the highest sensitivity, and the supply voltage is the least sensitive setting. There's also what's known as enhanced configuration mode, which is enabled by this active low pin. This allows you to use the UART to configure the device and saves the parameters into non-volatile memory. The parameters for operation mode, sleep time, and so on are sent one parameter at a time, followed by the carriage return ASCII code. This carriage return or enter key value triggers the device to send an acknowledge character back. So a transmission set might look something like this, where we send a 0 followed by the carriage return ASCII code to select capacitive mode. After the acknowledge code is received, we could send an 8 followed by the enter key for the sleep period, and so on after each acknowledge code until we have set up all the parameters. The system lock pin allows the saved parameters to be restored automatically on startup without having to resend them through the UART. But the UART also gives you access to an extended output dataset when the UART enable pin is low. By default, the extended output will include parameters for the firmware version, the reference value, which is an average of the dry sensor readings, and the liquid detection threshold value. That will be followed by the standard measurement of the sensor value and the delta value. And the delta is the difference between the threshold value and the standard measurement. If you don't like the default output, you can configure the output with the enhanced configuration mode to give you just the raw measurements, just the delta, both of these two together, or an MPLAB visualizer format data stream. Finally, we have the heartbeat signal, and this will go high at the end of each sleep period for 100 milliseconds, while the device wakes up, acquires data, and then sends it off. This signal is an indication that the device is operating properly. But if the device detects corrupted parameter settings with the cyclic redundancy check it does on the parameters to validate them, then you'll get an error signal, and that is the heartbeat and the output pin outputting square waves that are the inverse of each other. And this tells you that you need to reconfigure your parameter data. Right then, with that whistle-stop tour of the device under our belt, we should be clued up enough to understand most of the features on our evaluation kit. And here it is, freshly arrived from RS. So the first task is going to be to get this external anti-static bag off. And to pull the box out from the bag. Okay. And there it is. Right, let's just have a quick look underneath. Yep, that's pretty well sealed there. So I'm just going to pop this down and get my trusty tiny Swiss Army knife. And we'll cut through this tape. And we'll do the same on this side. What's the best way in? Let's try here. Okay, that's got it. And we have two anti-static bags inside. This first one looks like the sensors. Okay, so this one must be the eval board. And we may as well open this one first. Not quite. And we'll pull you out. And there's our eval board, which I'll just pop down while we take on the sensor bag. And eventually, if I keep trying, we'll get into the bag. And this is our dual sensor PCB. And I'll just put that down next to the main board so we can have a proper look at both of them. Let's start with the sensor panels. The lower sensor is the conductive sensor. This works on the principle that a conductive liquid will complete a circuit between the two interleaved copper electrodes etched on the PCB. Current flow will cause a voltage drop across the electrode pull-up resistor, giving an indication that fluid is present. But not all fluids are conductive, so we also have a capacitive sensor. This type of sensor will also use an interleaved comb-like setup for the electrodes, but in this case we're interested in the fringe capacitance between the electrodes. If we were to look at this setup side on, the electric field lines will extend out from the surface of the electrodes and not just between them. This extension is the fringe effect, and those electric field lines form part of the total capacitance. If we add a liquid into the electric field, this will increase the dielectric constant value, which in turn increases the capacitance measured by the sensor. Okay, so that's what we're measuring with the sensors. Let's now turn our attention to the main board. At the heart of the board is the MTCH9010 device right here. And you can get a sense of the size of the device by comparing it to the 0805 surface mount resistor directly above it. At the bottom left here, we have a USB-C connector. This is where the board will normally draw power, and if the USB-C bridge is turned on, with this switch here below the connector, we can use USB-C for our UART serial communication to a host computer. The enum LED here will light when you have a connection to your host computer. Above the USB-C connector, we have a power select jumper. The 5-volt selection takes power directly from the USB connector, while the 3.3 volt selection routes the USB power input through a power regulator to supply a steady 3.3 volts. The next header up allows you to measure the current flowing into the board. If you take off the header and connect your measurement equipment between the two terminals, you can accurately measure how much current the board is drawing. Above that is the external I/O interface that allows you to connect directly to your own hardware. The VDD and ground connections can be used to power the board, but you will have to remember to remove the power select jumper if you're going to do that, so that you don't damage the board. The detect line will go high if liquid is detected, and the heartbeat outputs the heartbeat signal. These outputs, of course, will match up with the detect and heartbeat LEDs on the board. Wake is an input that connects to the device's wake up pin, and that allows you to arbitrarily control the sleep schedule of the device. The configuration switches across the top here include the mode select, which is pretty self-explanatory, ECFG, which enables the enhanced configuration mode when switched to on, the lock switch, which will boot the device from saved parameters when turned to on, and the output, which enables the extended output via UART when that's on. At the bottom here, we also have a sleep period setting switch. The reset button does what you might expect it to do and resets the board, and the threshold is your sensitivity control potentiometer. Turning that all the way clockwise is the least sensitive setting. And that is a lightning tour of the eval board. So it's got to be time to power it up. And with the sensor paddles connected, we're going to run up the eval board in its standalone mode, where the operation of the MTCH9010 is controlled solely by the configuration switches. So let's set them up. We'll leave the mode switch on conduction. Enhanced configuration is off anyway. Lock is off, but we'll turn off the extended output as we won't need that, and the USB bridge. And we'll bump the sleep up to 2-second sleep cycles. I think that will probably be fast enough. And then we'll need power. So if I can plug this in, there we go. And we're running. So you can see the heartbeat signal flashing away every 2 seconds there. So it looks like we're sensing. Okay, so let's give the board something to sense. I've got some tap water here. Et voila, we've detected some conductive fluid. Good. I think that's doing what we expect. Okay, what we could do next is just mop this fluid up. And when the water's gone, so is our detection signal. So that seems to work. Great. In that case, I guess we can try changing the detection mode to capacitive sensing. That's it. And we'll just reset the board so the change can take effect. And as water has a pretty high dielectric constant anyway, if I bring my water-filled dropper bottle over the top of the sensor here, we can detect a capacitance change. So again, we're detecting our fluid. This time it's in a container. And when we take it away, we stop detecting it. Well, that was pretty easy, wasn't it? So I think that ably demonstrates how quick and easy it is to use the MTCH9010 in a standalone configuration. Well then, that just leaves the enhanced configuration mode to try out. So let's set up the switches to do just that. Okay, turn on the ECFG, leave lock where it is, turn on enhanced output, and of course the USB bridge needs to go on. Right then, let's power this up, and our LEDs are lit, so we're ready to jump on the PC. And you can see that our eval board has been enumerated on my PC to COM3 just here. So we want to go to protocols and select other protocols, and then we want to select our data source as COM3 and set up the UART baud rate, and we set that to 38400, and all these other settings can stay the same. Okay, so we'll come over to this side and select COM3 and just check. Yep, 38400 baud. Okay, so now we can go back up here and start the data flow, but to get a response from the board we'll need to reset it. So there we can see that our firmware version has been passed back to us, and the send configuration button is now usable. I'll just change the sleep time to 2 seconds as before, and I think we'll keep everything else the same and send. So the reference value we've got back is 511. And we can recheck that value with repeat measurement. Okay, then we're going to send calibration, and that starts our measurements off. And it looks like we seem to have a little bit of stray capacitance floating around in my environment. And as our threshold is set to 0, we're registering some fluid detection. Anyway, let's put my bottle on the sensor, and our measured capacitance shoots up to 10. Well, probably somewhere just in between 9 and 10. Now, if I move the bottle, well, firstly you can see I'm a source of capacitance too, but hopefully as I slowly slide the bottle off the sensor, you can begin to see that the capacitance is dropping off. And keeps dropping off as we reduce the amount of fluid over the sensor. Which sort of demonstrates, despite my high capacitance fat fingers, that the capacitive sensor can be a useful tool for fluid level monitoring as well as simple detection. So you might find that the capacitive sensing is the more versatile method for a range of applications should you decide to purchase an MTCH9010 for yourself. Well, that's about it for today's video. All that's left is to say stay safe and see you soon.